Hello, SaraSai. I'm very, very happy to have you here tonight. I know every speaker needs this, what you have to offer. And this is to have an access to the way the audience is listening to them by the way they speak. Because I have really come across quite often that people seem to hear the things you don't say. And I think your work is really addressing that issue.
Yeah.
So the kind of hidden things that we as speakers try to push down and keep it under the lid. And look, it is already there. Don't you see it? Kind of thing. So yeah, I think really every speaker who wants to be effective in his art needs to have a meeting with you, and probably a profound meeting, to find ways out of that maze, out of that self-made maze.
Yeah. And you know, the thing I would say is, if anybody was listening to this, they might think, oh gosh, that sounds really heavy. No, it's fun. I love to make it fun. So I bypass the roadblocks, bypass the blind spots, bypass those feisty saboteurs, and make it fun, where people end up forgetting themselves and finding themselves. That's the power of Vocalezy. So I want people to realize, if you come and have a Vocalezy session with me, you're going to have fun. You're going to have amazing insights. You're going to feel elevated, celebrated, empowered, and ready to rock and roll into the hallways of success.
Yeah, that's what I wish my colleagues. Thank you, SaraSai.
Thanks, Ulf. Thank you. I'll take great care of them, I promise you.
Wonderful. I have a very short story to tell. Recently, I had a Czech guy talking to me, and I talking to him too. And the next thing he says, well, you know those old English films of World War II? And these Deutsche Wehrmacht officers are talking a certain way. You talk exactly like that.
Ooh.
And afterwards, he apologized for being politically incorrect, but it was funny.
Are they the words he used?
Those were the words he used, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if people really understand what that means. He's literally saying you sound like the Nazis.
In the English films. So
in the English films. How did that feel?
Felt interesting. I felt I don't think this guy really sees who I am, but interesting projection he had there. Yeah. And he's basically a nice guy, and he even apologized afterwards, but
it was out.
The first blow, it was kind of, hi, what is now going on here? And I think this might be up your alley. So
it's so interesting you say this, because you know, most people don't even get the opportunity to hear the judgments and opinions, which are often silent in their audience. Or when you're speaking to somebody, what's there's a veil of perception and projection about who you are that you don't have any say in. It's something like their own baggage they bring with them, and they throw in front of you. And I think one of the things that is really like that is having an accent. And I don't believe that people should have to change who they are. But it is worth knowing that your accent is something you need to be aware of, not in any kind of way where you have to disown your past, but to be aware that some people may have a reaction to an accent that's got nothing to do with you, but can have everything to do with the results that you get. So, you know, one of the things I like to do is help people become more aware, because very few people will actually tell them, I can't actually understand you, or I have to work hard to understand you, or I can't be bothered working that hard, so I'm not interested in what you have to say. These are the kind of thoughts that go on with people. And there are ways in which you can soften the accent without changing who you are, changing your identity, but making it easier. Because with Vocalezy, the whole point is making your speaking be easy so people can hear you, can hear your message. And so you can deliver your value. I mean, that's the point. You want them to get what you're communicating.
Yes.
Otherwise, why bother, right?
Yes.
But it's an eye-opener to sort of see you actually need to be feeling the feelings almost of your audience and present enough to spot any objections that might be in the space so that before they become a roadblock to your communication, that you can even sometimes speak them. Like one of the things that you might consider is owning it at the beginning. Okay, so who here has an opinion about my accent? Hands up. I'm not saying you should do this, but you could. I've got a German accent. So is that an issue for anyone? I want you to look past that because you're here to get some gold. And I want you to get the gold of my message. So I invite you to bypass anything that might be in your way of getting what you came for here. Because I'm really here to help you. I'm here to make a difference in your life. And then you've killed it. You've handled the objections. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And that might have gotten me past my Czech new friend.
He was probably terribly embarrassed.
It could have. I know situations that were more pleasant in my life. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like if you were to take that into you, if you were to make it be personal when it's not personal, that could really stop you.
Yeah.
It could stop you feeling free with people, imagining that other people are also thinking that. So it's better to be in the driving seat of communication, I think, to know how you are perceived. And that's the reason why I do my Vocalezy assessments, because I can give people professional, unbiased, loving feedback that has them get present to some of these things that might be in the way for them that they have no clue about. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So in that sense, anybody who runs into a situation similar to mine, and I understand even there are so many times unspoken prejudices.
Yeah.
That are present, and it would be good to sense them. I don't know how you work on that, but
I can read what's there. You know, people don't realize when you're speaking consciously, you're also speaking through your voice in reverse gear unconsciously. So you're communicating from your subconscious mind to the subconscious mind of your listener, and they're picking up what you think you're not saying.
Yeah.
That goes really deep. But this is why congruence in yourself is so key. Because if you're trying to conceal anything about your communication or about yourself, if you think you're doing a good cover-up job, appearing confident when really your heart is thumping and your feet, your knees are nubbling and you're terrified and you're like a rabbit caught in the headlights, you think you're covering that up. And to some extent, you may be visually, but people can still feel it. So people perceive an awful lot more than we give them credit for. And I help anyone who comes to me with for Vocalezy assessment, for example, I will articulate what's in the space in a way that can illuminate their understanding of how they may be perceived and received. And that can open the door to shifting, finding ways of being more empowered in their communication, to bypass the default roadblocks that people naturally have. It's human nature. Every single person, as soon as you open your mouth, and even before you open your mouth, has judgments and opinions about you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can't spend your life micromanaging people's perceptions, but what you can do is command the present moment, where your presence is so powerful that you pull them in, where you're pulling them out of the mind into their heart, and you can bypass all of that. And that's the training that you're really needing, how to master your own presence, which means digging a little bit deeper and knowing who you are yourself. and going beyond the things that you might be afraid of or trying to conceal or hoping that are not discovered. You know, because people naturally have lack of self-confidence, sometimes fears, worries about something that might happen where they feel ashamed or humiliated or like they've made a mess or they lose face or, you know, they completely go blank and look stupid, you know. And so we need to give ourselves permission to be human. All of these things are human nature, having fears about not being enough, not being quite right and the way we should be, and needing to be perfect in some way to stop us feeling free to express ourselves. I think it's such a shame because once you bypass the mind and you speak from the heart, letting your heart take the microphone, you move all of that out of the way, where you're just free to be. And that's where people want to live as well. They want to live in their hearts, but they don't always know how to get in. So with Vocalezy, it's like fast track into your heart.
Yeah,
Bypass.
it's a small distance, but it seems a long one.
Oh, because if you asked anyone, Ulf, what would be the worst thing could happen when you're speaking? And let's imagine if you're speaking in public, if you're doing a presentation in front of people and there's something at stake, what's already there in the background is what they're afraid of, that they might not even know is running the show. So they're desperately trying not to do something or to end up in a place of feeling embarrassed, you know, that shame, like a blushing. I remember when I was a kid, even when I was a bigger kid, in my early 20s when I first moved to London, I remember sitting on the underground and I used to feel that if people looked into my eyes, they'd see everything I was thinking. And so I would sort of avoid the eye gaze, which of course is a good thing on public transport because you don't know who you're going to be looking at. But I used to think if I blushed that, or if somebody just looked at me and saw my eyes, then I would blush. I was quite shy and I was introverted, and I needed to go through the process of bypassing all of that self-consciousness as part of the journey of being free in your communication. So I used to be terrified that somebody would catch my gaze and I'd get embarrassed and I'd need to run off the tube. And that's what we do when we're doing a public speech. It's like the terror that you can't get off the stage. You can't leave the presentation saving face. So, you know, people feel a need to cover up so they don't go to that terrifying place of embarrassment or humiliation, appearing stupid or inept. And that can really block people from sharing their greatest gifts, you know, their own unique voice.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of passionate about that, as you can see, because I made
Yeah,
the journey
yeah.
myself. I know the road.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that whoever has known a similar situation or sensed that there is a similar situation, like I said in the beginning, they really need to find someone like you to help them address the issue that is in their way between them and people actually hearing what they have to say.
Yeah. And it kind of goes deeper than most people realize, because actually very few people know how they are perceived. And most people struggle to get heard and feel that they have to overcompensate in some way to be heard. And that can cost them their own presence, where they go into a mode of over-delivering or speaking too fast or pleasing people or trying to manipulate to get the outcome they're wanting. And all of these things can cost you your own presence and can land in the audience of feeling, you know, the whoever's listening, feeling like they're being talked at or sold to or bullied or manipulated in some way, or where they have no freedom to be. So there needs to be a looseness in communication,
Yes.
not a rigidity. And that can feel rigid, where, I mean, you've seen people delivering things where they're like, they are like a scared rabbit and they just want to go straight from one slide to the next. And there's no personality there. There's no warmth there. It's just survival mode. I just got to get to the end without falling apart or letting everything go wrong. Lighten up and start having fun and stop performing or stop trying to get it right.
Yeah.
Everything flows.
Yeah.
Like, why are we trying to be something we're not? Trying to appear a particular way, which amounts to putting on a performance. And I'll tell you, having had a career singing opera all over the world and being a consummate performer, real, authentic performance arises when you drop the performing and when you become the being, when you are, because you're holding the space for the whole audience in the palm of your hand, inhabiting fully the beingness of the moment. And that's when you are like a shiny magnet drawing all the hearts and minds in the room into your space. It's very addictive. It's exciting because you can literally hear pin drop. And I'm not saying that in an egoic way, but it's a transcendent moment that you can command transcendence and presence in your communication. I don't know who wouldn't be interested in that. Do you? I mean, really?
No, I think everybody would be interested in this.
Not even for performing, but for living, right?
Yes. That is what, well, depends on the person, but certainly that's what I would like to have in my life.
Yeah. Come on board. I'm ready and waiting. But with the accent thing, that can actually go deep. I think it has a gift in itself because it points to your national identity, your sense of who you are from where you were born, which is a part of your identity.
Definitely.
And so you have, not you personally, but people can project judgments and opinions and biases and hatred for a certain race onto you personally, which has nothing to do with who you are. But that's part of, it's almost like a karmic legacy that you're paying the price for. So you don't want to be carrying the can for that. So that's why making yourself present to what's already there in the space of listening allows you to have power with it rather than to be a victim of it. That's what I would say. I mean, how did you feel afterwards? You maybe laughed it off or you felt uncomfortable in the moment, but how did you feel after when you said goodbye to this guy?
I know him for quite some time.
Okay.
So it was kind of really funny to hear that from him. Kind of, what is going on now?
Where did this come out of after all these years, right?
Years could be, more than 1 year. And he actually very much likes how I develop things while speaking. So he kind of likes to follow. He reads it as if it's my wording is like the way I think and I develop ideas. So he kind of likes it, but that accent made him say that, and it's something I really thought is funny because his English is. Sorry, I don't think I speak super well, but I speak quite well. And he speaks really quite badly.
That's the other side of it. People usually project what they can't see in themselves out onto others. So it can be very interesting. Yeah. So it's like he's talking about himself in some way and projecting it externally to you.
Maybe. Like, well, it was strange, and there were other people on the same call, and kind of they rose their eyebrow, kind of, what's going on? And it was kind of, yeah, it was really a somewhat strange situation because you would not expect it of someone who kind of respects me, but this was really not so respectful, I think.
Yeah, but it was also unconscious in him, probably, and he was just becoming conscious to it. And at least he had the decency to say, "Wow, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean that." So it's like he caught it himself, realizing this is actually part of probably his own societal conditioning that maybe was not made conscious to him, that just appeared for him to see, to let go of, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
But accents make a huge difference. I'm thinking of somebody at the moment who struggles with an Asian accent, and her speech is very, very clipped, and it really makes a difference because there's a barrier between her and the people that she's really wanting to reach. And there are ways of making that so much easier where it will open people's ears and hearts to her in the way that she deserves. And there are other people with many different types of accents. I had elocution lessons when I was at school. I don't speak with a strong Dublin accent. I never did. But having gone to speech and drama, music college, I had the benefit of learning how to elongate the vowels, for example, how to create music in your speaking so that there's a sort of melismatic, harmonious delivery that rather than a staccato, grinding
Yeah,
delivery. We basically have to make it easy for our listeners to hear us. So, you can have an issue with that and feel bad about it, but I don't think that helps you or them to create the outcome you're both wanting, for them to receive the value you want to give them, and for you to experience yourself
yeah,
empowered in your communication, you know.
yeah.
So I'm
I
wondering
have,
what you would sound like if you were to change your accent. And when I mean change is like even if you were to elongate your vowels, rather, not your
yeah,
words.
um, Ulf. That would
Not too
sound funny.
extreme. Think of a sentence. Say a sentence. Excuse me, by the way, I have a cold, so I'm sniffing and coughing. So that's just the
Yeah,
way life is sometimes.
no problem. Um,
Think of a sentence.
I'm having an interview with SaraSai.
Okay. Say it again slower.
I am having an interview with SaraSai.
Okay. Now imagine that the vowels are like a clothesline? Have you ever seen a clothesline or a music line?
Sure.
Right? And then imagine the consonants are the pegs on the clothesline or the notes on the line, on the stave, right?
Mhm.
Vowels carry the sound. So
Mhm.
they make people understand the flow of the sound, the music in the voice.
Mhm. Mhm.
But the consonants articulate to differentiate between one word and the next. If
Mhm.
you elongate, if you make the vowels longer, then you can make it easier for the flow to be maintained and the consonants just to sit on top. So take the sentence again and say it in your normal Germanic way.
I am having an interview with SaraSai.
Okay. Now, if you were to elongate the vowels, it might sound more like this. I am having an interview with SaraSai. Now, obviously, nobody's going to speak like that. This is an exercise. But what you want to do is do that in such a way that you're going to feel the connection going through of the sound. Just try it and see what it sounds like.
I am having an interview with SaraSai.
Now try something else as a matter of interest. Release your jaw a little bit, like this. I am having A little bit more release of the jaw to allow more of the sound.
I have an
interview with Sa. You can loosen that jaw a little bit more, Ulf. Sa. Sai. What does that do? It just makes you conscious of the vowels versus the consonants.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you're wanting to do is allow the river to flow. I am having an interview with SaraSai.
I am having an interview with SaraSai.
That's a bit funny. That went a bit, I don't know, some other way. I am having an interview. You want to put some emphasis on some words as well. Otherwise, it's a bit like a robotic.
Yeah. I am having an interview with SaraSai.
Okay, I'm going to get you to sing that.
I am having an interview with SaraSai.
Lovely. So that was a little bit monastic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can't with my cold. But you want to put more music into it, make it a little bit more enticing and more interesting. I
am having an interview with SaraSai.
So if you notice interview, it closes down the sound, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So you want to keep the vowels longer and the consonants shorter because the vowels carry the sound and the consonants shut it down. So interview. So the N gets attached to the interview.
Interview.
Yeah, rather than interview.
Yeah.
Right? So you can look at consonants as a way. Now, we haven't even begun to speak about how all of that would be impacted when you fully embody the sound. Because when you embody the sound, when you connect it to the abdominal breath, what happens then is some of this is taken because then the sound is carried by the body rather than by you. Anyway, this is just scratching the surface, but yeah, there are many, many tools and tricks and ways of interpreting and using words that can give power and music and beauty to the voice, not least as well, where in the resonance your voice is primarily showing up. For example, in the head resonance or the chest resonance, nasal resonance for some people, and then fully embodied sound and mixed resonance. So all of this brings in the color and the beauty of the tone of the voice. And I mean, we all know if somebody speaks in a way that is attractive, we're drawn in. We're drawn in.
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
And if somebody's speaking in a grating, hard, curt way, we don't want anything to do with them.
Well, it doesn't feel that welcoming for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
SaraSai, I wanted to ask you there. I always had the impression that voice and body, of course, resonance has to do also with the body. I have some experience. I play the French horn, so I have some ideas about it, but I don't have really experience about voice. Certainly not to that degree that you have this knowledge. So would you tell my audience a bit more about the connection between voice and body, and can that be improved? Can that be changed? And no, first of all, I should actually ask, can that be changed? And then, of course, can it be improved? What are the parameters? What needs to be worked on? How would you go about that? Or is that a question that can be answered in such a short time?
We can point to it. And I would invite you to go back to the days, well, maybe, I don't know if you have children, I can't remember, Ulf, if you have children. You have children?
I have two children, yes.
Okay. So
Son
you
and
remember
daughter.
when your children were little babies?
Oh
What?
yeah,
Yeah,
very,
you
very.
remember them crying, 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 right?
There were times, and there were times they were so quiet. I kind of was shocked. Are they still alive? I don't hear them breathe.
Well,
So
for this
yeah,
exercise, we'll think of when they were crying. If you look at a baby crying, wah, wah, wah. Oh, I hope I didn't hurt anyone's ears there. Wah, 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 wah.
yeah,
Try
yeah.
that yourself. Just try it there in the chair and see how your body feels. Wah,
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 wah.
wah, wah. Well, I feel my tummy muscles
Yes.
pushing. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you feel the abdominal connection and you're not doing it. Your body is doing it. So your body knows
True,
what to do. And what happens is in this modern world, we're often rushing around, stressed up to our eyeballs, so many things to juggle. And everything
true.
kind of comes up here like this, where, you know, and in fact, if people think, I've sung opera all my life, if people think of opera singers, they think filling up like a big balloon. No, actually, the best production of sound is economical. And it's
That makes sense.
directly to the abdomen. Because you do body work with people.
Mhm.
If you don't connect it to your abdominal area, then what happens is you have something called clavicular breathing. And clavicular breathing, it doesn't resonate as well with your listeners because people can feel you're not at ease. You're not fully relaxed. You're not
Yeah.
fully transplanted or planted in your own body, feet on the ground, present in the moment. So it's a big giveaway for the emotional state or the ability to be with the audience. You
Yeah.
want to master your body's connection to the sound.
hmm
So how do you do that? There are many simple little exercises, like that one being imagine you're a little baby crying. Or another one I like to do is very, very simple. Anyone can do this. Just imagine you're in a library and you're telling some naughty children off for shouting and running around, giggling and whatever in the library. Shh, shh, shh.
Yeah.
Look,
Well,
you're doing a very nice, calm shh. I'd like a full, I'm annoyed at you. Shh, shh, shh. And again, where do you feel that in your body?
well, in the tummy again.
Are you telling your tummy to do anything?
No, I
No.
just say shh.
Yeah. See, your body knows what to do if you give it the right instructions. You're giving it an instruction to deliver a particular message without thinking, how am I going to organize my body to do that?
Yeah.
So the body follows the intention of the mind. So
Yeah.
when your mind is not fully present, or when you're locked in the mind, I should say maybe, when you're at a distance from your own heart, when you're not relaxed, the voice can rise up, the breathing can rise up. And
Yeah.
then your audience is also a little bit tense. They can't relax because you're not relaxed. So, but it's also one of the most exquisite, exhilarating things that my clients experience when they finally feel the full embodiment of their own voice. Because many people are not plugged into their full power in commanding their own vocal instrument. And it's like plugging yourself into the motherboard, into the source of your own being. That's how
Wow.
important the breath is in the body. Life begins with the breath and life ends with the breath. So our life is plugging us into our very being. And so when you command your breath to have your voice be at the service of the breath and at the service of your message, it changes how you're perceived entirely. And it's very exciting because a lot of people are so busy in life, they never get to really come home to themselves in their own body, in claiming their full power, which gives rise to claiming their confidence as well. So it's all interconnected. There's no way round but through. And being congruent, this is where being congruent comes in. You can't be congruent if you're not fully in your own physical body, looking out and communicating outside, but centered within yourself. That's what allows presence. That's what invites the audience's engagement and allows for ease and pure delivery. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense, SaraSai. I'm a body worker. Well, what I found is that when the model we have about a movement aligns with the kind of reality of our body, then the delivery or the execution of a movement is so easy and so much more both effective and efficient. That is stunning. So when we have a kind of idea that is this way and the body is made the other way, is certainly not effective, certainly not as effective, but really not effective. And efficiency is, you don't even need to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a big barrier, big barrier.
Yeah.
And most people don't have any awareness that they're at a distance from themselves. So how can your audience come close when you are not close to yourself? You're at a distance from yourself. I mean, it's just basic, really. You need to be home in yourself before you can invite the guests to come around, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you basically, the short version of that is being a leader by example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you think as well, for women, a lot of women never gave themselves permission to be angry. So maybe that can show up in speaking in a lighter kind of way, not fully embodying the sound because they don't want to be threatening or they don't want to appear to be angry or bitchy or whatever it is. The way people are judged, the way women might be judged if they sound too strong or too powerful or, you know, can be threatening. So they don't want to threaten anyone. They want to be nice and please everybody. But they're like distant from themselves then. So it can be really good to have exercises where you're given permission in a safe space to voice anger. But in a beneficial way, not in a way that's going to harm them, but to allow themselves to take the space and to make some noise. It's really key. To be allowed to make noise is really important for some people who are waiting for permission. And those will be the people who hold back in the meetings until somebody personally invites them to speak. And really, they might be reluctant to speak because they just don't want to tip the apple cart. But how can you be true to your message and your vision if you can't communicate authentically? So, you know, that can be a game changer for a lot of people as well. And I love to create a safe space, and it's confidential as well, where people come in and they can just be themselves, their authentic selves, and that gives them a space to grow and expand and shine in the way that they were born to, which is what I'm passionate about. Elevating people, celebrating what's already great in them. It's just sometimes needing a little bit of tweaking or permission or elevation. So, yeah, thank you. That was a good question. Thank you for asking that, because it's really relevant for so many people. Even I've had male clients who are not fully embodying their masculinity because there's a whole culture where men are taught not to be threatening, you know, to be embarrassed about the violence of other men or the anger of other men, and to tiptoe trying to get it right, you know, from the feminist perspective, where they're not sure how they're allowed to be anymore, and they're trying not to offend or to, you know, in this cancel culture, people are so cautious, but that can cost men their full power, where it might be a little bit polarizing sometime, but they need permission to be polarizing if it's authentic for them sometimes. And then as long as they stay plugged into the audience, you know, our great mentor, Joel Bauer, I think is a master at this, because he manages with the microphones, and he also notices in the moment, as your friend did, who was commenting on your accent, he noticed in the moment if he's being a little polarizing because he has command of his presence. And so then he can say in that moment, if you think I'm sounding polarizing, another way of really understanding this is I'm completely passionate about what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So making things right for people that gives them permission to be authentic without apology. Because if you, to thine own self be true, if you can't be true to yourself, you can forget any audience. Forget trying to deliver any message. If you cannot be yourself, you have no power to speak of. So again, dynamics comes in there, and vocal range and vocal authority. These are all things, you see, when somebody comes for a Vocalezy assessment, I hear everything that's particular to them. I can immediately read what's going on in their background activity to be able to point to it and help them become conscious of it. And that's the first step in being free from whatever is blocking them.
Thank you. I think many or some of the listeners certainly can relate to that and might even want to get back to you.
Okay, great.
My door is open. How can I, well, I know, but how can they reach you?
So there are two ways to reach me at the moment. One is you can send me an email, monetizemyvoice@gmail.com. Monetize, Monetize or ZE, my voice, all one, @gmail.com. Or you can check out my Vocalezy funnel if you'd like. If you'd like to arrange a one-off assessment, you can have a look at that. There are fabulous free gifts there, including my book, The 9 High C's, Golden Keys for Successful Communication, plus some vocal exercises, which they receive after they've had the Vocalezy assessment. That is invaluable for people as a first step. And to my mind, everybody who wants to be a speaker of influence absolutely needs to have an assessment like that. If not with me, then I don't know where else you can find it, but with a professional who you trust. So the link for that is https. I think it's at the bottom of my
I try to show it. So it seems to be https
www.vocalezytraining.com VOCALEZY training.com/monetize.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, people can reach out to me, SaraSai Woods.
We will find you on the internet.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Ulf, thank you.
SaraSai. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.